And where you were living and what mill you were working in at the time?
Call it the ranking, Mama.
Huh?
Call it the ranking mill, because that's the way it was listed.
My name is Pauline Pearson. I worked at the Rankin Mill. I lived on Davis Park Road. I don't know the number of it because I don't think it had a number at that time. They came in the mill and they shut the mill down, and they told us to get out, and we got out in a hurry.
Now, who's they?
The boss men come and told us, but the people that was invading is the ones that come in and shut the mill down.
Now, did you know any of those people?
No,
Do you know where they came from?
really, no, I don't. I know my boss man was Mr. Holder, and he's the one that came and hollered for everybody to get out because they would shut it down. You could hear, and so we got out.
Now, when you say they shut it down, what did they actually do?
Well, if you don't know nothing about the mill, I was spooling at that time, and they had a lever up there it had a belt that pulled it, and you could knock that lever off, and that shut my spooler down.
And who knocked your lever off?
I'm not going to say, I don't know for sure.
But I mean, did
It's
one
some of
these-
them that come in and just knocked them off, you see, and shut us down.
There was
And
someone connected with the union. Really. I'm not familiar with it.
Huh?
It was someone connected with the union. Judy, for your information,
Yeah.
that's what was happening. See, the union decided that they wasn't getting across it. They were really concentrating on the Man Bojinks plant there. And they felt like these other mills were a hardship on them because some of the people were getting work there, So they decided they were going to, as labor unions do, they were going to...
Then they called in this National Guard, you see, from Fort Bragg, and they were up on top of the mills with machine guns and all around the gates and everywhere, and they wouldn't let us go back in, and I didn't try to go back in because I didn't want to get shot.
How long were you out?
Out of work,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a week, till they got these guards all stationed and everywhere, and then we went back.
So you went back to work when the guards were already there.
After they came in and got stationed and had them at the gates and everywhere, the strikers left, the people that were trying to make a strike, well, they left.
Now, Pauline, while you were working there, do you recall workers ever trying to organize in your plant prior to this strike?
Oh, they had been trying to organize, and they wouldn't organize. I mean, the mill company, you would have lost your job if you'd have organized. Back then, you didn't have a labor man to come like you do now. But later years, we had a labor man that came in about every 3 months, and we could talk to him, you see. But at that time, we didn't have him, so Mr. Rankin was the owner of the mill. They run it, and they paid better than most of the mills where I worked.
Yeah. Do you want me to turn it off?
No,
Yeah, well, I wanted to tell her something,
no.
but I don't
Okay.
know this.
Getting paid better than the average mill worker.
Do you have any idea why all those union people came in and why people decided they wanted to strike?
Well, you see, they had done struck up at Firestone and closed it down. And they just wanted to close all of them down, I reckon. I don't know, because you wouldn't join the union, I reckon. I don't know. I tell you, I didn't mess with them, Judy. I worked when they put the guards there, but I didn't. Some of them crossed the line and went back, but I didn't. I waited till they were all gone and the guards were stationed.
No, so that group that came in could you describe it to me? Was there a lot of them? Was there a small amount of them?
There was a
Truckload.
truckload of them that came in.
On the back of a truck.
So you saw them come in on the back of the truck?
Oh, yeah, they just pulled up there. And I saw them out there. And I started getting my apron off and getting my stuff. I had my lunch up on top of the spooler, and I started gathering my stuff up. And when they got in the mill and shut it down, I scooted
Now,
right out the door.
So did you hear them say anything? Were they talking? What were they saying?
I don't know. I can't remember if they said anything. But you see, we had 2 or 3 doors there at the mill, and they came in from every door just like a windstorm coming in.
Do you know what they call themselves?
No.
Yeah, I definitely, I used to, the flying something.
Flying Squadron.
Flying Squadron, I believe that's what they call them.
Now, do you have any idea where any of those folks came from?
No.
Were they young folks?
They were all kinds.
Were they women?
Some of them, lots of them women, lots of them. In fact, I think they were about as many women as there was men, wasn't they, Paul?
I have heard it over my lifetime through my family and all that there was about as many women as there was. You know.
You know, women will venture out more than men.
Now, did any of the people from your plant want to join a union?
If they did, I don't know it, because we were happy with our jobs, and times was hard, and I had 2 small children, and I needed to work, and I certainly didn't want to join the union.
What did you think a union would do?
Well, from what I've seen, it didn't help anybody. You just had to pay your dues and everything, and you didn't get much back, because there at Firestone, them people that belonged to the union, I don't know if they got anything
This
on
wasn't Firestone then.
No, it
It was
Manville Jinks. But did they get anything out of it? Only a few
No,
potatoes or something that they hauled in
Something
there?
like that. They give them, you know, as unions do. You could go to the union place, and if you belong, if you were a member, and you could get.
You got a few
food and-
potatoes or a few beans or something.
I've heard many people say that the reason why they struck was because of the stretch out.
Well, that's true too.
Well, that's what I said. Can I close this a minute? If you'd go down to the library and you could get that book of mill hand and preachers, it's how they treated the help in this book. Now, I don't know how they treated them up at Firestone, because I wasn't up there.
How did they treat them at your plant?
Mm-hmm.
How did they treat them at your plant?
They treated ours good. I had a good boss man, and we were not,
Judy, again, we did not live on the village.
Right.
no.
Okay.
People on the village, they had the upper hand of 'em. They had nowhere to go to. And
They owned their
if you
own
drank
homes,
or
but-
anything, they would fire you, a lot of them. And they just didn't treat them as good, you know, as if you lived off the village, because they didn't have you holding there. We had our own little house, and it wasn't but 2 doors from the mill village, 2 houses. So the parsonage was in between me and the mill houses. But
So that made a difference between you and people that lived in mill houses.
it did, because if you'd have joined the union, you would have had to move off of the mill village. You wouldn't have had a house. And you couldn't have got one at another village unless it was all union, because they wouldn't have let you come in, you see, and they had the upper hand of you.
I'm going to show this to you, okay?
Into a condo.
Okay. Tell me your name first, and then tell me
My
the story.
name's Betty Short.
Let your mama see your face. When you talk. Okay. Here. Okay.
She wants you to see me.
Whoops. Up. Whoops.
Tore the thing.
Ooh. There you go. Okay. All right. So you were telling me. Your name is Betty Pearson Short.
Right. And I was 7 years old, and I remember my mother and father picking me up and taking me back over to my uncle's, which was a couple blocks away. W.A. Marley was superintendent of the 3 mills, and I was out in the yard, and one of the boss men at the 3 mills, I think he must have been the paymaster, came up and parked his car and got out, and he had an ice pick in his pocket. And one of the strikers asked him what he was doing with the ice pick, and he said that's what he picked his teeth with. And I shall never forget that, because it stuck with me all these years.
So the strikers were right outside his house?
We're right outside on the road, and he was going to go into the gate. Like I said, I think he was paymaster at that time.
Now, you said that there were hedges on this house.
It was used like a fence, a hedge, that was kept trimmed, and it was up, say, 3 or 4 feet high, and I was not allowed out of the hedge.
Did you watch from inside the yard?
Yes, I watched everything that was going on.
Okay, tell me what you saw.
I saw people come in a truck, and the people were in the back end of the truck, a bed full, and they just were milling around.
Were
And
they holding anything in their hands?
I can't say, I can't remember that because, like I said, I was only 7 years old. I went to school there at South Gastonia School, and they also had guards on top of the mills and all. And I know as kids we'd fantasize as to what was going to go happen next, with all the guards and the machine guns and everything. But I never saw any violence or anything. I did see a group of people that were not from that community, because at that time you knew who lived in your community. You were acquainted with.
Now, did you happen to see people on the picket lines?
Yes.
What were they doing? Can you describe a picket line to me?
They just were standing there and were not letting people go in.
Did they have signs?
Yes.
Do you remember what the signs might have
No.
said? Do you? Were they singing songs?
They chatted and chanted.
Chanted.
They chanted?
Uh-huh.
Wait, they chatted to each other or they chanted?
Chanted. They had some kind of a song. I don't even know what it was, but they were
Just a
chanting.
chant.
You couldn't understand really,
What it was.
because there was a
I
road.
tell you, I didn't mess around. I stayed put.
Now, did any of your friends mess around with them?
Uh-uh.
Not that I can think of. Mr. Bush is dead. If he was living, he was the big shot over there at the mills.
Mr. Bush is John's
He's
father?
been
No,
dead.
John was a Fletcher. Am I still on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll go back to
He's
this.
not at home.
What
I
if-
bet they
what-
gone off for the weekend.
So that ice pick story is really something.
Well, that's the one thing that I remember.
What do you think he was going to do with that ice pick?
I have no
he
idea.
was going to protect himself. I can tell you what he was going to do with it. He carried it,
It was,
for protection.
it was really violent.
Now, do you think they needed
A
to
lot
call...
of people carried sticks and things that had to go in. These men were officials of the mill, and they had to go and take care of the stuff in the
Do you
mill.
smell something burning?
Uh-uh.
Okay,
Do you smell something burning?
I thought I did.
No, there ain't nobody down here but us. I bet you John and them went off for Labor Day,
They
and he
might have.
forgot all about this.
Oh, well, that's all right. Listen, let's see. Isn't that funny? Labor Day. Labor Day.
When you-
This is Labor Day, and Labor Day is coming up. That's really something. And tomorrow's Saturday, September 1st.
That's tomorrow.
Saturday. That's tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's September 1st. Do you know what tomorrow is?
What?
Well, tomorrow is, I guess, well, it's the anniversary of this strike.
Oh,
You know
is it?
what next Saturday is?
What?
My birthday.
Well, happy birthday! How old are you gonna be? How young are you gonna
I'm
be?
going to be 83.
Well, mazel tov. That's what we say where I come from. Okay. That's some story. So you could recognize a flying squadron.
That was there
Think
on there
so.
long ago with that big
Okay.
old
Truck.
truck of a thing.
That looks like, so that wasn't like, that's a flying squadron right there.
That's what it looked like.
That was
Like
it.
But how did they come over?
In
Where
trucks.
they come from, I don't know where they come from. But they come from everywhere. What did you find out in Kannapolis? Didn't we have a bunch of them from Kannapolis to come down there?
To come down here to Gastonia? I went to Kannapolis with some movie footage, and I had some people tell me a little bit about it, but they didn't tell me that there was a group from Kannapolis that came down to Gastonia.
I think they were.
Is that where you think they were from?
Some of
Some
them.
of them, they were from everywhere, honey. They just gathered up.
A few here and yonder.
Few
See,
yonder.
people were afraid of their jobs. I was a kid, but I know that, you know, that,
Now, what did your husband do during the strike? He was a
He was a taxi driver at that time.
he owned 2 cabs. By that time, he'd gone to work over at that gas plant. They'd built that little old addition to the mill called the gas plant, where they singed yarn,
Yeah.
and he had gone to work over there, too.
Like I said, he took the mumps, you see. And he was afraid for us to go over there, and I was afraid for him to go because I was afraid they'd do damage, you know, with the mumps and all.
Now, your uncle was superintendent. What did he do during this strike?
He went in and out, just like I said. Some of them had to go in and out and tend to business and things. And he passed the,
But there was never any violence down there.
he just passed and went on in. Him and Mr. Bush and Mr. Lamar Rankin. There was just a few that were over the 3 mills. You see, there were 3 mills there, and they had these. I think Mr. Bush might have been the general manager, and Mr. Rankin, I think, was paymaster, and then Paul Marley was the superintendent of all 3 of them. And they passed the squadron, but they didn't give them no.
And you're not familiar, but Mill Village it used to be that the supervision, people who had supervisors' jobs lived on the front row, they called it. And that was the one that was down 321. I mean, there was a row of houses there that were nicer than the other houses that they lived in.
Now, was your family working in the mill too?
Yeah, some of my brothers were.
At this time as well?
Yeah.
None of them are alive.
Yeah, once. Well,
James is alive.
Is that right?
he could probably
Where is he?
help you with some of this.
Where's James?
I don't reckon he's going to take her to the beauty shop.
That's why we didn't call. But he don't even know where we live either.
Does James live in Gastonia?
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, I could go visit James myself.
Well, I don't know about that.
Oh.
He's not as outgoing. He's a nice person. I don't mean any.
Where was he working then? At Firestone?
I'm pretty sure he was working
I thought he worked at Pearson.
at Manville Jinx. Well, they
Okay,
did, but that
Manville
was years
Jinx.
later.
So you think in 34 your brother was working
Yeah,
for Manville
I'm pretty
Jinx?
sure he was.
Where does he live now? Which neighborhood?
In the West End, right? Not too far from Parkdale.
Really?
And he worked at Parkdale a long time too.
So he might know some of these
He
folks.
sure might.
Okay, well,
'Cause he's older than
would
I
you
am.
help me to maybe bring? I have, he doesn't have to have a VCR. I have one with me. I have 2 more days here, and this is my only day in Gastonia. Think you could help me get in touch with him?
Let me call him and see what he says.
All right. All right.
I go
Okay.
call him and see what
If
he
he's
says.
not going to take his wife, I might
He's
could
got
go
a
get him and lay him
sister-in-law.
down here and let him
Well,
go.
I'm going to be going into Gastonia to his neighborhood.
Okay.
I have to go see Fred Deal.
Oh, yeah, well,
Oh,
you'll be
well.
up in the day.
I'll be up there. He doesn't have to go out of his way.
James, this one he's calling now, had
James
gotten
Ray.
married before. Did he say he got married before or after his daddy died? I don't know, but anyway, it's sort of mixed up. Paul has a sister that would have been older, but her mind's not real good, and so that's why he wouldn't suggest her, because she has some days that it's pretty good and some days it's not, and then some days she doesn't see
So they all
him.
had to leave the mill house because...
Well, they had to move into another mill house out of.
Maybe
a
if
nicer
you lived in
one.
House, you see if there wasn't but one working, you had to move
I
on.
think he said they moved into a 4-room house. We talked with you yesterday or day before, well, we were discussing it, and I said, well, did y'all get to stay on where you were living? And he said, no, they moved us into another house that had a platform. It didn't have a yard. It had a platform. You went out to the road, but he said later they did fill it in. And he said we didn't stay there too long till we got another one working, and they moved us into another house.
So it was critical for them to get someone else working so that they'd have
Right,
a bit more
right.
Take you
seniority.
something back along then. Houses didn't have toilets in them.
But now Firestones did, Manville Jinx.
Yeah, just Firestone. That's the only one I know of down there where we worked.
Those houses had outside privies.
But
A lot of them didn't have water in them. They just had water to the back porch. I can remember,
that's what
you
the
know,
slackers were trying
they didn't have screens, a lot of them.
to
Some of
make
this
things
stuff,
better, you know.
like I said, when Becky interviewed different ones, they would tell about how none of them had screens, you know, and just different things like that. Like I said, we didn't live on the village, and I didn't.
So your life wasn't controlled in the same way that other
No.
people's.
No.
What did you think about that control that other people?
He's not there. I talked to his wife. She said he'd probably be back in a little bit. He just took his car to see about the brakes on it.
Okay.
She said she couldn't remember, but she thought he was working there too then.
Okay.
Great. Well, there we go. Okay. Just could you tell me your name and the address and where we are right now?
My name is Mary L. Wiggins, and I live at 510 South Yates in Gastonia, North Carolina.
Okay, great. And tell me which mill you worked at and when you started working.
I worked at Lower A up until Firestone bought it out, and then I still worked on there.
Now, you started working when you were,
13 and a half, marking roping in the card room.
now, what year was that when you started working?
Oh, gracious, I don't remember what year it is.
Well, how old were you when you got married?
I was 16 when I got married.
And you got married in 28,
Yeah.
right? So, so 3 from 28 would be 25. So you went to
Yeah.
work about 24, 25.
That's right, right along there.
How much money were you making at the time?
About $12 a week.
In 1924?
Yeah, but you had to work from 10 to, you had worked 12 hours a day, 10 and 12 a day to make it. It depended on what kind of a job you was on.
Okay, what were the conditions like inside the mill?
We had no air conditioning, it was hot.
What about the lint?
The what?
The lint.
Oh, we had lint. Oh, come out there, you was white. The lint was heavy back then because they didn't have anything to take care of it.
Now, did you go straight from going to junior high school into the mill?
I went from the 9th grade straight into the mill. Yeah.
What was your first day of mill work like? Do you remember?
I worked with an aunt. One of my aunts was working in the card room, and she was my supervisor. And she liked to work me to death because,
Because you were related?
yeah,
So she couldn't be easy on you.
no, she couldn't be easy on you. Mm-mm.
Now, I'm going to jump a little bit because I want to talk about this period of time and this film footage. How your work, I imagine, changed in 1932, 33 when Roosevelt came in?
It was what?
When Roosevelt came in.
Yeah, I was working when Roosevelt came in,
And
yeah.
he brought in the NRA.
Yeah, he brought in that.
And what happened to your work?
Well, the work, it was not as hard then because they were beginning to get uneasy about their work conditions.
They meaning they were getting uneasy about the work conditions?
Yeah, because we were working 10 and 12 hours a day. Even though you were young, that didn't make no difference. You still work long hours.
Now, when he brought in the NRA, the hours went to 8, right? Remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Hmm.
How the 8 hours?
Well, we was glad to see them 8 hours come in because it wasn't near as hard. And it wasn't, well, it was like you was on a picnic almost.
And you got a raise in your salary.
Yeah, got a raise in salary. We made less during the Depression years than we did when we first went to work. During the Depression years, you was lucky if you made 10 cents an hour. I worked many a night for 10 cents an hour, $1 a night.
And when you got this raise, during
We got about 15 cents an hour then.
and did the nature of your work change as well?
Well, I went from there to the winder room, to winding.
I know that in 1929, the union tried to come in.
Yeah, in 1929, the union moved in. We were at work, and they had a lot of fights out there, and there's a couple of days we didn't go home because they brought our lunches to the mill. Then they gave passes. After the guards came in, they gave us passes to get in and out.
So now that was during the time that in 29 that the chief of police was shot.
Yeah, Addie Hope.
Now in 1934 there was another strike, which is what I've been showing you pictures of.
That is just a branch off from the other one. He was still working at it.
He meaning Fred.
Yeah.
Was this strike in 1934 different than what happened?
Well, it
back
wasn't as much to it as there was the first go around.
Now, do you know why they struck in 1934?
It was still conditions, mill conditions. But I think they were really trying to pick up from the other. They were still trying to organize.
Now, how did the workers in the Loray plant feel about the idea of a union?
Well, there's not very many went out, a few that was faithful to the other. You know, during that time we had some killings up on Bessemer City Road. A woman got killed up there.
LMA Wiggins.
Yeah,
That was in 29.
yeah.
And so in 1934, you were telling me you remember that day when the strike started? You were at work.
Yeah. Well, 34 we didn't have to have passes. It's in 29 we had to have those passes to get in and out.
I see. So what happened when the strike started in 34? Do you remember that day?
Well, we were at work when they picked, what they call picked, you know, the mill. And you could go in and out. They didn't bother you.
They didn't.
Now, there might have been some fights, but
Did they call in the National Guard in
no,
1934?
They had them in 29.
I see.
It's when the National Guards came in.
Now, that strike in 34 was a general strike. You know, it was all
Yeah.
over the country.
Yeah.
What do you think do people here have, do they have opinions about whether it was a good idea or a bad idea? Do you think?
Well, there was, some wanted to do it and some didn't. But I think the main thing was their families, their housing, because they knew that they would have to move or be thrown out on the street or whatever. And they were, a lot of them put out on the street.
Now, were people put out on the street in 34 too?
Yeah.
What happened to those? Were those families that were joining the union that were put on the street?
Because they wasn't working. They were letting them go, and they had to get out of the mill houses. And they were bringing people in from the mountains, and they had to have a place for them to live.
Did you? So there were a lot of new people that came to work at that time.
Oh yeah. A lot of new people came to work.
Oops, lost an earring. That must have been a. Tell me, I've seen pictures of evictions from other times, but not of 1934. So it's
They just come in and put your furniture and everything you got out on the street.
And those were people that were actively joining the union.
They had joined the union and they wasn't working. And they needed their houses for new employees coming in.
I guess it was also a way of saying, don't you dare join the union.
Yeah. But you can understand if you're running a place of business and the people don't work, you don't need them.
What happened to those families that were evicted?
I don't know what became of them.
They moved away.
They had to go somewhere else. And it was hard to get for them to find a place because they wouldn't harm.
Were those people blacklisted? Blackballed?
I don't know whether they were blackballed or blacklisted, but I imagine it followed them.
Now, I'm trying to figure out if this, well, in this parade, there's lots of people that are openly marching with the union. It says UTW 2120.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you recall that the United Textile Workers in 1934? I mean, an open union like that?
Yeah, we was working at that time. Mm-hmm. Me and my husband both was working.
I wonder if you could see anybody.
No, I haven't seen nobody yet that I recognize.
Did you know anybody that might have marched in this parade, you think?
Mm-mm. No, I didn't know any of them that marched in the parade. I might know them back then, but not because we didn't have no dealings with them.
You couldn't.
No, you wouldn't have no job.
Textile strike spreads. Here are typical scenes in Gastonia, North Carolina.
Were you at your machine when the flying squadrons came in?
Yeah, I was working.
What happened?
Well, it's just the first, in 34,
Yeah, 34.
they just crowded, out there and picketed like a crowd pickets up and down the road.
Did they try and come into the plant?
No, that group didn't. It's the other group in 29 that tried to come over the fence into the plant. That was the reason they had to call the National Guards in.
So I think I wonder if they called the National Guard in 34 too. They might have.
I think they threatened to, but I don't think they ever called them in. Jennifer, don't come in here with them heels on. You make too much racket.
Those your shoes? Okay. They went from mill to mill?
Yeah. All those strikers just went from, like they at Farstone, where they come out here to Parkdale, and then they go up next day, maybe they'd be up here to Arlington, and they just went from place to place. They'd load up in trucks and things and go all the way to Bessemer or to Kings Mountain, somewhere like that.
Now, did they pick up local people as they went to join their ranks?
Yeah, anybody that wanted to go, that wanted to strike.
It must have, I guess, were they mostly young people that went to strike, or older people?
Most of them was younger people, or maybe in their 30s and on up.
Do you think they were frightened?
I don't know. I just never did.
You don't. I mean, considering what was at risk.
Yeah, if you had any
to
family, you was risking it. Yeah, if you had a family. But see, they claimed, the leaders of those strikes said they couldn't throw you out, but it was that was just one of their say-sos. And what was they going to do for food?
Do you recall people getting any sort of relief during the strike?
Do what?
Do you recall people getting any sort of relief?
They got some from the strikers in 29. They had a warehouse, but a group went down there and tore that warehouse up and destroyed the food and stuff that the strikers had. But I don't know whether they got any relief from anybody else or not. I don't even know nothing about social service. I don't know where they had it back then or not.
These girls look like their
Because-
faces are pretty clear.
Because, well, see, we worked. And see, I wasn't about 17 or 18 years old, and they didn't interest me because I was working in it.
Does that look like the
Yeah, that's,
Parkdale?
those are picketers there,
Right.
picket the mill. Now there's Lowray.
That's just the top of it. That's all I have.
My mother was already working at Lowray, but we were brought up to work. I don't know.
No, but do you think these people who are striking were lazy?
No, they were striking and wanting more money and better working conditions is what they were after, but they didn't get it through that.
I guess better working conditions and more money would have been good for everybody.
Yeah, it would have. It really would have.
Do you think that there would have been a better way to try and get that?
Yeah, there would have been a better way, but I don't know how, but they could have been a better way. Because they sure didn't get nothing that way. Because this union thing, they didn't have no laws to govern or nothing. See, now they can't do nothing like that. Where back then, there was no laws to protect. See, now they have the laws and you can vote and they can't fire you. Back then, they wasn't.
Do you think if back then there was a vote and people could say, yes, we want a union? And
Well, if they'd
you think you would have, you think
They
people
probably would have, because there'd have been a lot of people, because wasn't making anything hardly. Some people wasn't making but $5 and $6 a week.
How did they live?
Well, stuff back then wasn't as high as it is now. You could go to the store and buy a piece of meat that big then for a quarter. Buy a whole sack of flour, one of those big sacks for 50 cents. It'll last a month. You don't buy it like that anymore.
What was going on inside the mill during the strike on the outside? Do you remember? Was it business
We
as
worked
usual?
just like it wasn't even out there. What they had enough hands to, they run what they had enough hands to run.
Oh, did they talk to you about what was going on outside?
Oh yeah,
What would they say?
asked you not to join in with the group. Or if you was interested in that group out there or whatever.
Oh, they'd ask you if you were interested.
If you sympathized with them.
Would they come up to you while you were working and say that?
Oh yeah, your boss man would. But all you had to say is, I'm not interested. They didn't pressure you.
But that must have been intimidating.
Now they might have intimidated some, I don't know.
They didn't
If they
intimidate
thought,
you?
no. If they thought maybe you was in sympathy with them or something, they might have.
So are any of those people that were in sympathy, are any of them still around here, you think?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them here.
Do you think that they might have even been marching in that parade?
I don't know. There might be some of them still here marching in that parade, but they wouldn't own up to it now. You'd have a hard time getting them to own up to it.
Is that right?
Because it was defeated, so they just don't want to be connected to it.
I mean, there are some people that even went out on strike during that time that still live around here?
Yeah,
Would they admit to it?
I doubt it. I doubt it. Very much. But the majority of them has moved away or died out.
So they were local people. It wasn't like they were all from far. They
No,
all
they were local
foreigners.
people. They were local people. They might have had some come in from, I doubt if they had any to come in out of state, but they did from out of town, you know, from different towns.
And do you think some of the people here joined those flying squadrons and went on to Kannapolis and to the other Morrisville?
Probably did. Probably did.
See, I've been talking to a lot of people who worked, you know, and who didn't
Yeah.
go out. And because it is about history, we want to get both sides.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be able to talk to someone who might even know somebody in that footage who could say, yeah, you know.
I don't know who had that film, but I can find out if you give me.
What was in the film?
It had all these people in it, only they were larger. What he showed was on a big screen.
And they were picketing?
Some of them was. And then it showed individuals that you would know.
And this was during the strike?
Well, they probably was.
And someone told me today that they saw a movie and they were handing out literature?
Oh yeah, they start handing out literature before they even started the strike, and then they handed out literature after the strike. You come out of the mill, they'd give you a handful of literature, but I never would take none of it, because I had my job, and those that wanted to keep their jobs just ignored it.
When did they start handing out the literature to begin with?
They started that before the strikes. Started handing out leaflets. They first stood at the gates, and then they had to move back away from the gates because the mill company made them get off their back off the property.
Did you see the mill company do that? Actually tell them to get off property?
Yeah, they had to move away, so many feet away, yeah. So the help could get in and out.
Are any of those people that were handing out the literature still around?
I don't know where they are or not. But they had a lot of fights. People going off of their work, and those that were in the union would call them scabs and all that, and they'd have a good many fights. But I never did have no problems, me or my husband, neither one, because we lived at the back of the mill, and we could go out the back door and just two rows down, and we'd be at home. And we'd come in that way.
Sounds like it was a little scary.
It was scary, yeah, 'cause you never did know where you was going to be jumped on or not. We didn't go out at night at all.
Do you think the union might have been able to do some good?
Not that one. Their organizers was from Russia over here.
Even in 34?
Yeah.
I know that I hear people say that about 29 with Beale.
Well, your 34 group was just a branch off from the other group, still fighting for the same thing.
difference was this time it was all over the country. It wasn't.
Yeah.
You heard about reports of that, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Where'd you hear about it? On the radio or on the newspaper?
Out of the newspapers and on the radio.
What'd you think about that all over the country?
Well, it was kind of scary because it's almost a civil war. Because you couldn't leave here and get a job somewhere else because they were in the same predicament that you was in. And then when Firestone shut down, or Lorry shut down, my husband went to Greenville, South Carolina and got a job, and we moved to Greenville and lived 2 years. About 2.5, I guess.
Is there anyone that you could think of that you think I could show this movie to and they might have something to add?
I don't know unless it would be Oliver Bedingfield. Now, they run a cafeteria on Firestone Square. Now, he probably would maybe know some of them better.
Oliver Bedingfield.
Mm-hmm. He lives out on Linwood Road.
Betting? B-E-T-T-I-N-G?
Bedingfield.
F-I-E-L-D.
Yeah.
And he runs a cafeteria now?
They
Or
did
he
it
just-
that time.
Oh, at that time. Was it called, what was it called? Capital Lunch?
I don't know what the name of it was. All I know, it was there on Firestone Square, or what we used to call Greasy Corner.
Greasy Corner.
Yeah.
Because of the cafeteria?
Yeah, no, the cafeteria wasn't named that, but the little old village where it was at was named Greasy Corner.
G-R-E-A-S-Y? No. G-R-E-A-Z-Y?
I don't know how they spelled it.
Greasy Corner. Okay. Now, Oliver Bedingfield.
Yeah.
Is his wife still alive, too?
Oh, yeah, she's still alive.
How old do you think they are?
Do what?
How old do you think they are?
Oliver's older than I am,
Okay.
and I'm 78. He's about, well, he might not be older than I am. He's about 79. Yeah, he is, because Juanita's about a year older than I am, his wife. Because she's in church, she's up in a older group than I am. So she's about 79, and he's about the same age.
They don't live in Linwood Terrace apartments, do they?
No, they own their home out on Linwood.
You think they'd like to see this?
Well, he might know them since he worked in the cafeteria.
Maybe it was Capital Lunch. I saw someone in this footage walk by with a sign that said Capital Lunch.
They run a little old cafeteria up there on Firestone.
Did a lot of mill people eat there?
Yeah, there's a lot of people went in there and it's more or less called a hamburger joint and that.
Well, that would be interesting. He might be very helpful. What about Fred Deal?
What about what?
Fred Deal? Do you know Fred?
Fred
Deal.
Gill?
Deal.
I know the Fred Deal.
Yeah, that's who I said.
Yeah. Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, I wanted to go see him today, but he's going to go in the hospital in a couple of days. So he asked me not to come over.
I don't know where, he did live down on 4th Street. I don't know where he
Yeah, he
lives.
still lives down there. And the other name that the Shorts gave me was Fletcher, F.M. Fletcher.
I know some Fletchers, but I don't know which which one that is.
E.M. Etzel.
Who?
Etzel. E.M.
E.M. Essel.
E.M. Fletcher. Yeah.
I don't know unless it would be.
John's brother.
Oh, John Fletcher's brother?
Yeah.
He lives out on Linwood. No, yeah, on Linwood Road. Is that the same one?
They said North Firestone Street.
Well, this is another one.
I don't know. I might know him if I'd see him. See, there was several of them boys.
But the person that they found in the footage is named Legs Wallace.
No, I don't
Jim
know.
Wallace.
Yeah, I know Jim Wallace
He's in
now.
this movie.
No, I didn't see him.
But